The conference room door clicked shut behind Julian Thorne, and I watched him walk away with my folder clutched under his arm like he'd just won something. He hadn't won anything. He'd just stolen my presentation 40 minutes before the biggest pitch of my career. A Harvard man should present the $120 million deal, not a self-taught coder, he'd said, laughing like it was the funniest joke he'd heard all week. The three senior partners around the table had shifted in their seats, but nobody stopped him. Nobody said a word. My name's Theodore Vance, and I'm the lead systems architect at Valemont Financial Group. That's a fancy way of saying I build the technological backbone that keeps billion-dollar transactions flowing smoothly. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to any university. I learned to code in my bedroom at 18, turned that skill into a career, and spent the last 40 years proving I belonged in rooms where everyone else had framed degrees and family connections. Julian Thorne had both. His degree hung in his office right next to a photo of him shaking hands with the CEO, who also happened to be his cousin. That's how things worked at Valemont. Merit got you in the door, but family kept it open. The Montgomery Group meeting was scheduled for 2:00. I'd spent 3 months preparing for it. 3 months of 18-hour days, missed dinners with Clara and Eleanor, weekends buried in financial models and system architecture diagrams. The Montgomery Group wasn't just another client. They were the client, the kind that could transform a mid-sized firm like Valemont into a major player, and they'd specifically requested me, not the firm, me. 6 months earlier, I'd spoken at a financial technology conference in Boston. My presentation was on predictive algorithms for market volatility. Nothing groundbreaking, just solid work presented clearly. Apparently, someone from Montgomery had been in the audience. 2 weeks later, they reached out. They wanted a custom trading platform, something that could handle complex international transactions while maintaining bank-level security. They wanted it built from scratch, and they wanted the person who designed it to present the proposal. That person was me. I told Harrison Thorne, our CEO, about the request the day it came in. He'd seemed thrilled. Told me to put together whatever I needed, that this was my project. I should have known better. I should have seen what was coming. But I didn't. So, when I walked into the office that morning, confident and prepared, I didn't notice the looks from other department heads. Didn't catch the whispered conversation that stopped when I entered the break room. I went straight to the conference room we'd reserved for final prep. My presentation materials were loaded on my laptop, backup copies on 2 USB drives in my bag. I'd practiced my opening 17 times. I knew every slide, every transition, every potential question and its answer. Julian had been waiting inside. Morning, Theodore. He'd been sitting in my chair, feet up on the table, scrolling through his phone. Morning. Big day, right? I'd started setting up, connecting my laptop to the projector system. About that, he'd stood, walked over to where I was working. Harrison and I had a conversation yesterday about optics. My hands had frozen over the keyboard. Optics. The Montgomery Group is old money, very traditional. Harrison thinks, and I agree, that they'll respond better to someone who fits their expectations. He'd smiled, but it hadn't reached his eyes. Someone from their world. They requested me specifically. They requested Valemont Financial Group. You're part of Valemont, I'm part of Valemont. We're a team, right? I wasn't naive. I knew exactly what he was doing. Julian, I designed this entire proposal. The system architecture, the security protocols, the implementation timeline. This is 3 months of my work, and it's excellent work. That's why I'm confident presenting it. He'd held out his hand. I'll need your files. That's when the other partners had walked in. Roland Pierce, Chief Financial Officer, Beatrice Hayes, Head of Client Relations, and Harrison Thorne himself. I'd looked at Harrison. You're actually doing this. Harrison had the decency to look uncomfortable. Theodore, you're brilliant at what you do, but Julian has experience with these high-level presentations. He went to school with half the people in that they didn't ask for Julian. They asked for the person who designed the system, and you did design it. Julian will make sure they understand what you've built. Beatrice had chimed in then, her voice gentle like she was talking to a child. Sometimes the best thing we can do for our work is let someone else showcase it. This isn't about your abilities, Theodore. It's about giving the proposal the best chance of success. That's when Julian had laughed. That condescending, dismissive sound that made my teeth clench. Come on, Theodore. A Harvard man should present the $120 million deal, not a self-taught coder. No offense, but Montgomery expects a certain pedigree. I'd wanted to throw something. Wanted to tell them all exactly what I thought of their pedigree and their optics and their old boys club mentality. But I was outnumbered, and Harrison was already nodding along with his cousin, so I'd handed over the folder. Watched Julian flip through my notes like he was browsing a magazine. Stood there while discussed presentation strategy, talking about me like I wasn't in the room. Theodore, you're welcome to observe from the back, Harrison had said. Might be educational to see how these things work at the executive level. I'd left instead. Walked out of that conference room, past the curious stares from the administrative staff who definitely heard what happened, and locked myself in my office. My phone sat on the desk, Clara's smiling face on the lock screen, Eleanor on his shoulders at the beach last summer. I'd missed her school play last month because of this project, missed our anniversary dinner because I'd been debugging code at midnight. Clara had understood, or at least he'd said he did. It'll be worth it when you land this deal, she told me, except now it wasn't my deal anymore. I pulled up LinkedIn on my computer, started browsing job postings. Maybe it was time to start looking elsewhere. Plenty of firms needed good systems architects, and most of them probably wouldn't steal my work and hand it to someone's cousin. My desk phone rang at 2:43. I'd been watching the clock since 2:0, imagining what was happening 3 floors up in the executive conference, Julian stumbling through my technical explanations, the Montgomery representatives asking questions he couldn't answer, Harrison stepping in to smooth things over, making excuses. I almost didn't pick up, but old habits die hard, so I grabbed the receiver. Theodore Vance. Theodore, it's Harrison. Can you come to my office, please? His voice sounded strange, tight. I'm actually in the middle of something. Now, Theodore. The line went dead. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, giving myself time to think. Maybe they'd realized their mistake. Maybe Montgomery had asked where I was, and now they needed me to clean up Julian's mess. Fine. I'd help with the presentation, but we were going to have a serious conversation about respect and credit afterward. Harrison's office door was open. He was alone, standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back. Close the door, he said without turning around. I did, waited. He finally turned to face me. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see tension in his jaw. The Montgomery pitch didn't go well. What happened? I kept my voice even professional. They walked out. 20 minutes into Julian's presentation, their lead negotiator, Victor Montgomery himself, stood up and ended the meeting. Despite everything, my stomach dropped. 3 months of work gone. Why? Harrison crossed to his desk, picked up a manila folder, my folder. He opened it, and I saw my notes inside, but something was off. Pages were missing. Entire sections I'd prepared were gone. Julian made certain modifications to your proposal. He thought some of the technical details were too complex, that they'd bog down the presentation. So he simplified. He simplified? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice now. He simplified a proposal for a custom trading platform to one of the most sophisticated financial groups in the country. He removed the security protocol specifications, said they were too dense. My blood went cold. Those protocols were the cornerstone of the entire system. They're what made our proposal different from every other firm Montgomery's considering. They're the reason Montgomery contacted us in the first place. Yes, well, Victor Montgomery said the same thing, roughly. Harrison sat down the folder. He called the presentation insulting, said we'd clearly sent someone who didn't understand their needs or our own proposal. He asked where you were. There it was. What did Julian's say? He told them you were his assistant, that you'd helped with some of the preliminary research. I actually laughed, couldn't help it. His assistant? Victor Montgomery has a copy of the conference program from Boston. He saw you speak. He knows exactly who you are and what you do. Harrison's voice was getting quieter, which somehow made it worse. He told Julian that if Valemont Financial Group couldn't be bothered to send the actual architect of the proposal, then Montgomery couldn't be bothered to continue the conversation. Then he left. We stood in silence. Outside Harrison's window, the city stretched out under gray autumn clouds. Normal people doing normal jobs, Probably not dealing with this particular flavor of corporate backstabbing. I assume Julian's been dealt with them, I finally asked. Harrison's expression flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. You're not serious. The words came out flat. He torpedoed a $120 million deal, lied about my role in the company, and what? He gets a slap on the wrist. He's family, Theodore. I don't care if he's royalty. He cost this firm the biggest opportunity we've had in 5 years, which is why we need you to fix it. Harrison pulled out his phone, started scrolling. I want you to call Victor Montgomery, explain what happened, apologize for the confusion, and reschedule the presentation. The sheer audacity of it left me speechless for a moment. You want me to apologize? I want you to salvage this deal. By calling someone who just watched your cousin claim credit for my work and lie about my position and asking for a second chance? While Julian faces no consequences, Julian has been temporarily removed from the project. Temporarily? Theodore, I understand you're upset, but this is bigger than personal grievances. This firm employs 240 people. Their livelihoods depend on deals like Montgomery. I need you to think beyond yourself here. Something in me went very quiet and very cold. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Montgomery's team leaves the city tomorrow. I left his office without another word. Took the stairs back down, each step feeling mechanical. People called out greetings as I passed. I didn't respond. Back in my office, I sat in the dark for a while. Didn't turn on the lights. Just watched the shadows lengthen as the afternoon faded. My phone buzzed. Clara. How did it go? Are we celebrating tonight? I'd forgotten I'd promised to text him after the presentation. It's complicated. I'll explain when I get home. Theodore, what happened? Later, I promise. Give Eleanor a hug for me. I hung up before he could press further. The Montgomery Group's contact information was in my email. Victor Montgomery's direct line, his assistant's extension, his mobile number that he'd provided specifically for project-related questions. I could call right now, smooth everything over, deliver the presentation myself tomorrow morning, answer their questions, probably save the deal. And then what? Work for a company that had just shown me exactly how much they valued my contributions. Watch Julian face zero consequences while I cleaned up his disaster. Spend the next however many years wondering when they do this to me again. My desk phone rang, Harrison's extension. I didn't pick up. It rang 4 more times over the next hour. I ignored all of them. At 5:30, someone knocked on my door. I'd locked it at some point without really thinking about it. Theodore. Beatrice Hayes' voice carefully concerned. Can we talk? I'm busy. I have a message from Harrison. He's authorized a bonus. $20,000 if you can get Montgomery back to the table. $20,000. About what I'd earn anyway if the deal went through and I got my usual percentage. They weren't offering me anything extra. They were just dangling my own compensation like a reward for being a good team player. Theodore. Tell Harrison I'll have an answer for him in the morning. Footsteps retreated. I turned back to my computer, pulled up that LinkedIn tab again, started actually reading the job descriptions this time. My phone buzzed at 6:15, unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something made me pick up. Theodore Vance. Theodore, this is Victor Montgomery. I sat up straight, suddenly very alert. Mr. Montgomery, I heard the presentation didn't go as planned. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. His voice was crisp, educated, exactly what I'd expect from someone who ran a multi-billion-dollar investment group. I'm calling because I want to understand something. The proposal I saw today bore almost no resemblance to the preliminary outline you sent last month. What happened? Truth or diplomacy? I had about 2 seconds to decide. There were some last minute to the presentation team. I see. And these changes included removing the most critical technical specifications and having someone who clearly didn't understand the material present in your place. That's accurate. Silence on the other end. Then, Ms. Flynn, I'm going to be direct. Your presentation in Boston was excellent. Your preliminary proposal was exactly what we're looking for it. Today's meeting was an embarrassment. I need to know if Valemont Financial Group is capable of delivering what we need, or if I'm wasting my time. This was it, the moment where I either save Harrison's deal or burn that bridge completely. Mr. Montgomery, can I ask you something? Go ahead. If you hire Valemont for this project, who would you expect to be your primary contact? That's non-negotiable. I'm not interested in working with intermediaries who don't understand the technology. Then, I need to be honest with you. What happened today is indicative of some internal dynamics at Valemont that I'm currently evaluating. If I'm not here, I can't guarantee the quality or integrity of the project. Another pause, longer this time. Are you telling me you're considering leaving? I'm telling you that I need to work somewhere that respects my contributions. Today made it clear that Valemont might not be that place. Understood. He sounded thoughtful now. Miss Flynn, I'm extending my stay in the city by 2 days. If you decide you're still at Valemont and want to present the actual proposal, the one I know you designed, call my office before noon tomorrow. We'll schedule something. But I'm only interested if you're the one presenting and you're committed to seeing the project through. And if I'm not at Valemont, then I'd be very interested in knowing where you end up. I sat there holding my phone, processing what had just happened. Victor Montgomery had basically told me that the deal was mine if I wanted it, but also that he'd follow me wherever I went. That changed things. I stayed at the office until almost 8:00, not working, just thinking. The cleaning crew came through, emptying trash cans and vacuuming, giving me curious looks but not asking questions. My options kept circling in my head. Call Victor tomorrow, save the Valemont deal, collect my bonus and my percentage, and go back to working for people who saw me as useful but replaceable. Or walk away, find something new, and maybe possibly have Montgomery follow me there. Except it wasn't that simple. I had a partner and a kid at home. Clara's freelance graphic design work was steady, but not reliable enough to carry us if I quit something else lined up. Eleanor's school tuition, our mortgage, the car payment, Clara's student loans, we were still chipping away at the location. Adult responsibilities that made dramatic gestures a lot more complicated. I finally locked up and headed out. The parking garage was nearly empty, my car sitting alone on the 3rd level. The engine turned over with a reassuring rumble, and I just sat there for a minute, hands on the wheel, trying to figure out what version of this story I was going to tell Clara. Our apartment was in a converted warehouse building in the Arts District. The kind of place that was trendy 5 years ago, and now just felt lived in. I could hear music playing as I unlocked the door. Clara's jazz phase was apparently still going strong. There she is. Clara appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder, smile fading as she got a good look at my face. Okay, what happened? Eleanor crashed into my legs before I could answer, wrapping her arms around my knees. Mama, I made a volcano at school and it exploded everywhere, and Miss Rodriguez said it was the best one. I scooped her up, breathing in the kid's smell of her hair, letting the simple reality of her settle my nerves. That sounds amazing. Did you take pictures? Clara did, on the tablet. Can I show you after dinner? Absolutely. Clara had made pasta, nothing fancy, but exactly what I needed. We got through most of the meal with Eleanor providing running commentary on her day, the volcano, her friend Emma's new backpack, the butterfly they'd seen at recess. Normal kid stuff that felt like a different universe from the one I'd been inhabiting all day. After Eleanor went to bed, Clara poured 2 glasses of wine and sat down across from me at our small dining table. All right, tell me. So, I did the whole thing. Julian taking my presentation, Harrison backing him up, the pitch falling apart, Victor Montgomery's phone call. Clara listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker as the story went on. They actually said you were his assistant, he said when I finished. After 3 months of you killing yourself for this project. Julian said it, Harrison just didn't correct him. That's the same thing. Clara leaned back, running a hand through his hair. So, what are you going to do? I don't know. If I save the deal, I'm rewarding their behavior, but if I walk away, we're gambling on me finding something else quickly. We have savings, 3 months, maybe 4 if we're careful. That's our emergency fund. This feels pretty, emergency adjacent. She reached across the table, took my hand. Theodore, I've watched you come home exhausted every night for months. I've seen you miss things with Eleanor, skip meals, work yourself into the ground for these people. And today, they showed you exactly what they think of all that effort. I know. So, maybe the question isn't whether we can afford for you to leave. Maybe it's whether we can afford for you to stay. I'd been holding myself together pretty well until that moment. Something about the way he said it, The quiet certainty in his voice cracked something open. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "I'm scared," I admitted. "What if I burn this bridge and nothing else works out? What if Victor was just being polite and doesn't actually want to work with me somewhere else? Then we figure it out. We always do." Clara squeezed my hand. "But I'm not scared of us struggling for a few months. I'm scared of you spending the next 10 years at a place that treats you like this. That's not sustainable." We talked for another hour, running through scenarios, looking at our budget, discussing possibilities. By the time we went to bed, I still didn't have a firm decision, but I felt less alone in making it. I couldn't sleep. Around 2:00 in the morning, I gave up and went to the living room, pulled out my laptop, started looking at what it would actually take to start my own consulting firm. The legal requirements, the startup costs, the insurance and licensing, and all the boring administrative work that nobody warns you about when you dream of going independent. It was daunting, but not impossible. An email notification popped up. I almost ignored it, then saw the sender name. Victor Montgomery. My heart rate kicked up as I opened it. "Miss Flynn, I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly. I wanted to clarify something from our earlier conversation. The Montgomery Group is interested in the trading platform proposal, but more importantly, we're interested in working with people who share our values around innovation and integrity. What happened today told me a lot about Valemont's values. Your response to my questions told me a lot about yours. Regardless of what you decide about tomorrow's potential presentation, I'd like to schedule a separate conversation about future opportunities. My direct email is below. I look forward to hearing from you. Regards, Victor Montgomery." I read it 3 times. Then I pulled up a new message and started typing. "Mr. Montgomery, thank you for your email and for your understanding regarding today's situation. I'd very much like to schedule that conversation about future opportunities. However, I want to be transparent about my current position. I'm exploring options that would allow me to work with integrity while meeting my financial obligations to my family. If the Montgomery Group has interest in working with an independent consultant rather than a firm representative, I'd welcome discussing what that might look like. If you're specifically looking for a firm-backed proposal, I can also recommend several colleagues whose work I respect. I appreciate your flexibility and look forward to speaking further. Best regards, Theodore Vance." My finger hovered over the send button for a solid minute. This email was basically telling Victor that I was leaving Valemont. Once I sent it, there was no walking it back. I hit send. Then I opened a new document and started writing my resignation letter. Morning came too fast. I woke up on the couch, my laptop still open next to me, battery dead. Clara was in the kitchen making coffee and the smell pulled me upright. "You look terrible," she said cheerfully, handing me a mug. "Thanks, very supportive. Did you sleep at all?" "A little. I made some decisions." His eyebrows went up. "Yeah? I'm resigning today and I'm starting my own consulting practice." Clara's face split into a genuine grin. "Good, about time. You're not worried?" "Terrified, but also proud." He kissed my forehead. "You've got this." Eleanor wandered in, still in her pajamas, dragging her stuffed rabbit. "Why's Mama sleeping on the couch?" "Because Mama had big thoughts last night," Clara said. "Come on, let's get you ready for school." I showered, put on my best suit, the navy one I saved for important meetings. If I was going to quit, I was going to look professional doing it. My phone had 6 missed calls from Harrison's office and 3 voicemails. I didn't bother listening to them. There was one email that mattered, though. Victor's response sent at 6:00 in the morning. "Ms. Flynn, your transparency is exactly why I want to work with you. The Montgomery Group has worked with independent consultants before, and I see no reason why this project couldn't be structured that way. Let's schedule a call for this afternoon to discuss terms and timeline. I should mention that our standard consultant contracts include a signing advance to cover initial setup and living expenses during the project kickoff phase. For a project of this scope, that would typically be in the range of $50,000. If you're amenable, I'll have my legal team draw up a preliminary agreement for your review. Regards, Victor." $50,000. Enough to cover our expenses for months with room to properly set up a business. I read the email twice more, making sure I wasn't misunderstanding, then typed back a confirmation. This was really happening. The drive to Valemont's office felt different this morning. I wasn't anxious or angry, just calm, clear about what I needed to do. The reception area was busy with the usual morning rush. I headed straight for Harrison's office, resignation letter in hand. His assistant, Margaret, looked up with barely concealed relief. "Oh, thank goodness, he's been trying to reach you all morning." "I know. Is he available?" "Go right in." Harrison was on the phone, but gestured me inside. I sat down, placed my letter on his desk, and waited. He wrapped up his call, eyeing the envelope. "Please tell me that's your presentation notes for the Montgomery meeting I'm scheduling. It's my resignation, effective immediately." His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, disbelief, anger, and finally landing on something like panic. "Theodore, don't be rash. I know yesterday was difficult, but we can work through this." "I don't think we can. You chose family loyalty over professional merit, and that told me everything I need to know about my future here. Julian's been suspended pending a formal review." Suspended, not fired, not demoted, suspended, which we both know means he'll be back in a month with a slap on the wrist and a promise to do better. I leaned forward. "Harrison, I've given this firm 8 years. I've brought in clients, built systems that saved you millions, and mentored half your IT department. Yesterday, you let your cousin steal my work, lie about my position, and torpedo a massive deal. And your solution was to have me fix his mess while he faces minimal consequences. What do you want? More money? A promotion? Name it. I want to work somewhere that respects me. That's not here." He stood up, started pacing. "You're upset. I understand. Take a few days, think about this. We can restructure your role, give you more authority over project assignments." "I don't need a few days. I've thought about this all night." I stood too. "I'm leaving, Harrison. The only question is whether we part professionally or if this gets messy." "Messy how?" "The Montgomery Group is still interested in the trading platform. They're interested in working with me specifically. Now, I can take that project as an independent consultant, or I can recommend they work with Valemont under very specific conditions. But if I hear that Julian or anyone else here has claimed credit for work I'm doing independently, or if there's any attempt to interfere with my new business relationships, I'll make sure every firm in the city knows exactly what happened yesterday." Harrison's jaw tightened. "That sounds like a threat. It's a boundary. I'm not interested in burning bridges, but I'm also not going to let you undermine me as I leave." We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Harrison sat back down, looking older somehow. "I didn't think you'd actually walk." "I know. That's part of the problem. For what it's worth, I am sorry about how yesterday played out. I appreciate that. But sorry doesn't change the decision." I left before he could argue further. There was a strange lightness in my chest as I walked back through the office. A few people noticed my expression, probably wondering what was happening. Beatrice Hayes intercepted me near the elevators. "Theodore, do you have a minute?" "Not really. I've just resigned." Her eyes widened. "What? No, you can't. We need you. You needed me yesterday. Today I'm taking care of myself." The elevator dinged and I stepped inside. "Good luck with everything, Beatrice." Her protests were cut off as the doors closed. I spent the rest of the morning in a coffee shop, laptop open, handling logistics. Registered Flynn Systems Consulting as an LLC, set up a business bank account, started drafting service agreements based on templates I found online. It was tedious work, but satisfying in a way my job hadn't been in years. Victor Montgomery called it too. "Ms. Flynn, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "Not at all. Actually, my schedule just opened up considerably. I heard Harrison Thorne called me this morning. He seemed quite distressed about your departure." I winced. "I hope that doesn't complicate things." "On the contrary, he was calling to recommend I work with you independently. Said you were the best systems architect he'd worked with, and that any firm would be lucky to have you." It was quite gracious, actually. That surprised me. Maybe Harrison had more integrity than I'd given him credit for it. That's good of him. So, let's talk specifics. The Montgomery Group wants to move forward with the trading platform. Based on your preliminary proposal, we're looking at an 18-month development cycle. I'm proposing a contract structure with milestone payments, first payment upon signing, subsequent payments tied to development phases. Total project value would be in the range of $200,000. I actually had to grip the table to steady myself. $200,000, more than I'd made in the last 3 years at Valemont combined. That's very generous. I managed. That's market rate for a project of this complexity with your expertise level. I'm also open to discussing equity options if you prefer a lower base rate with potential upside. We talked for another 40 minutes, hammering out timelines, deliverables, support requirements. By the end of the call, I had a verbal agreement and a promise of contracts by end of week. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my coffee, trying to process what had just happened. 24 hours ago, I'd been watching Julian Thorne steal my presentation. Now I was an independent consultant with a six-figure contract. My phone rang again. Unknown number but local area code. Ms. Flynn, my name is Penelope Grant. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Pierce Investments. I heard through the grapevine that you've recently left Valemont Financial and started consulting. I was hoping we could discuss a potential project. How did you hear that? I registered the business like 3 hours ago. She laughed. Financial sector in the city is smaller than you'd think. Word travels fast, especially when it involves someone with your reputation. Do you have time this week to meet? I pulled up my calendar, which was hilariously empty. I could do Thursday afternoon. Perfect. I'll have my assistant send you details. Looking forward to it. 3 hours. It had taken 3 hours for word to spread that I was available.